Before we begin this episode honoring Private Karl Jacob Sellner, I want to share some exciting news. Gold Star Stories is now able to accept tax-deductible donations through our new fiscal sponsor, Veterans Collaborative. With this support, we are actively seeking monthly donors and corporate sponsors to help us grow this project into something bigger than a podcast. Our vision is to create experiences where an entire Gold Star family can come together for a fully covered retreat. Time to rest, reconnect, and, if they choose, record a Gold Star Stories episode that captures their loved one's legacy. These gatherings would also provide access to counseling and supportive resources because healing and storytelling often go hand in hand. And now, let's hear about Private Sellner. Private Karl Jacob Sellner was the kind of son who lit up a room, whether he was pulling a prank in the kitchen, strumming his guitar, or writing songs that carried his love for music. He grew up in Pittsburgh, dreamed of following his grandfather's path as an Army MP, and after high school, he made that dream real. He trained, married his longtime sweetheart, and was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas. But alongside the joy came struggles: marital strain, addiction, and a demotion that all collided at once. Weeks away from an honorable discharge and under daily check-ins in the barracks, Karl died by suicide. In this conversation, his father, Rad Sellner, shares who Private Sellner was before the uniform, what happened inside it, and how their family has carried the weight since. We also hear about Rad's work to bring a Gold Star Family Memorial Monument to Pittsburgh, a place where families like his can gather, remember, and be seen.
Marine Captain Nick Letendre died earlier this month in an explosion in Iraq. He was 27, a husband and father, and he was buried in Arlington National Cemetery, a few miles from where he grew up. As America observes Memorial Day,
I have been directed by the President of the United States and the Commandant of the Marine Corps to inform you that today, 0530, your son was killed in action while in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Not very many of us can accomplish our goals or our dreams, and he always knew where he wanted to go, and he did it.
A Gold Star family is one who has lost a loved one serving in the United States military. It's a distinction no family ever seeks, a bond shared through sacrifice, remembrance, and profound loss. I'm Nick Letendre, and I've been a Gold Star sibling for over 18 years. In those 18 years, I've learned that while ceremonies fade, medals are stored away, and life continues, the story doesn't end for the families left behind. This podcast is dedicated to remembering those who gave everything for their country and to telling the lesser-known stories, the quiet, powerful journeys of grief, strength, resilience, and hope that follows after the flags are folded and the crowds disperse. These are Gold Star Stories. Can you tell me a little bit about your son, Karl, who he was growing up and before he decided to join into the service?
Let's see, where do I start? He was always a jokester. He loved to make people laugh, especially if they weren't feeling, in a good mood. He loved to prank my wife. One of his favorite pranks was to tape the handle open on the sprayer on the kitchen sink. Turn the water on, it would spray her in the face. That was pretty frequent occurrence in our kitchen. He loved sports, but he didn't like the competition, so he never really played them competitively. He loved music. Music was his good. Starting early on in his life, he went to an urban academy to get better at the arts. He got into acting and sing, playing guitar, singing. He could almost do it all. And then he carried that love of music into his high school career, writing songs and recording them, stuff like that. When he graduated high school, he joined the Army, and we had some difficulties. It wasn't all a bed of roses with him growing up, but for the most part, he was a good kid. And yeah, he joined the army after boot camp. He had a 2.5 week break between the end of boot camp and him going to his first, I guess, his first base. And he decided to get married to his longtime sweetheart. So we had 2.5 weeks to put a wedding on for him.
Ooh, that's a bit of pressure, huh?
Yeah, but it was cool. We got we did it, and everybody had a great time, and he was happy that he could take his wife to base with him. So he had wanted to be in the army ever since I can remember. He was very close with my father-in-law, his grandfather, and his grandfather was a wounded World War II vet. And he was an MP also in the army, and that's what Carl wanted to do, is be an MP in the army. And I guess it didn't hurt that 9/11 occurred before he joined, and that made it all the more a permanent thought in his mind. He never got deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq. However, he did go on a peacekeeping mission to Monaco. Monaco in Africa. He went with his company to teach the army over there how to keep the peace. He Yeah, that's about it.
So where's his hometown? Like, where did he grow up?
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh.
Pennsylvania.
Okay. And where was he being stationed at?
He was stationed in Fort Riley, Kansas.
Okay. So how long was he in the service?
I think it was a little less than 4 years.
Okay.
He was thinking about re-upping in the next few months. But then all hell broke loose. So
Are you willing to go into a little bit of that with me and kind of what led to the events?
yeah, I think that it was a perfect storm. His marriage wasn't going well. His addictions had gotten the best of him. He had gotten demoted. And I just think that with all three of those things happening at once, he thought that suicide was the best way out, or the only way out, which is sad. He was getting help through the army. He was living in a barracks and being checked on pretty often. They were trying to get him an honorable discharge, and I believe he was within 2 weeks of getting that honorable discharge, and I guess he just couldn't take it. So
So he was basically feeling like he was pretty down and out at this point because of his demotion, his marriage, everything else, and it just felt very, um, I guess, bleak for him.
yes,
And so he was living in the barracks at the time, and his well-being was essentially completely up to the army at that point. They were the ones checking in on him because he and his wife were separated. She wasn't there to essentially keep an eye on him either. So how did you find out the news? Did you get a knock at the door about this?
Yeah, I got a knock at about 4:30 a.m. from a chaplain and I guess an SOS guy or person. And as soon as I saw him at the door, I knew what had. They came in and told me and asked if I knew where his wife was. And I had no idea. I said, I guess she's at home. I don't know. Because they hadn't been able to get in touch with her yet, I don't believe. So, and, she was very young. I think she might have been maybe 20 at the time. Carl was her first love. So, everything was basically brand new to her. I found out by two individuals knocking on my door at very early in the morning.
So you obviously probably knew that there were some issues going on ahead of time.
Yes.
So that was when you got the knock at the door, that's immediately where your mind went, was that?
Um, no, it was that something had happened, that I didn't, I didn't realize that I didn't know how far it had gone. Every time I mean, at the end, Carl and I would talk almost every day. His mom would talk to him also every day. And he would say, "Oh, everything's fine. Everything's fine." Um, it wasn't. So, and at least I went through, well, I'm still going through it. Every day I'm like, well, if I had gone out there, could have I had changed the outcome? And, I know I'm a therapist. I have a master's degree in counseling, and I know like that the exercise that I do just is useless. However, if you've ever lost a son or a daughter to suicide, you know that you always have that question in the back of your mind. What could have I done differently? If I had gone out there, questions like that. And I mean, it's in the back of my mind, but I still, I still think about it every once in a while.
So leading or the days following this, since he was married, was his wife in charge of the arrangements still? Were they able to finally get a hold of her and give her the news?
Yeah, they were. Her dad flew out there immediately because she didn't know what to do. So they made arrangements with our help because they were out in Kansas and we were here in Pittsburgh. So we had they chose a funeral home that was close to the zoo because that's where they met, at the zoo. And then we had the service at our church where they had gotten married as well. So, yeah, we were in close contact with them, and we still are today. Not as close as I would like, but his wife Shelby, she often calls my younger daughters, and my youngest doesn't know life without her. So, she's she's still part of our life.
That's beautiful. So he had other siblings as well. What were the ages on his other siblings?
So we have 7 kids.
Oh wow.
The oldest is 36. The next one, my son, is 34, I believe. And then Carl. And then Carl would be 28, I believe. And then we had Isaac, who is 28, took a break for a while, and then had Mariah, who's 21 today. Sophia, who is 20, Cecilia, my youngest, who is 15, and she's the only one home now.
Gotcha. So, how did this have an effect on all of his siblings? I mean, that's gotta be a pretty jarring thing.
This it messed up my family. It really did. My and we're still feeling the effects, and we probably will be for the rest of our lives. Um, you know, it's not like losing a dog or even losing a parent. It's a permanent thing when you lose a son or a sibling. Um, and my two youngest are probably the most acclimated to new life without Carl because they were young enough to have to go to stuff with us to help deal with it. We went to one thing on grief for children right after it happened or as soon as we could get in. And it seemed to help a lot with the two youngest. Then, about a year in, my wife went to a group on suicide at a psych hospital. She wasn't inpatient. They offered this group, and member of the group introduced her to TAPS. So the first event we went to with TAPS was a parents retreat in Atlanta, Georgia. We got to swim with the whale sharks and do some cool stuff. So and then we've ever since then we've gone to seminars and conferences with TAPS. My wife actually works for TAPS right now as uh, a care team participant. So she has a purpose in her life. But the older kids, they went through and are still going through some pretty severe mental health issues. Hopefully they're on the other side of them. They've done what they've had to do to take care of these issues, and their lives are a lot better now.
Moving forward with Carl's story and your journey here, are you doing anything yourself as well to kind of help keep his memory alive and to make sure that his story is heard?
Actually, yes, I am. We have a care group here in Pittsburgh through TAPS, but we have reached out to a bunch of survivors of not just suicide survivors, but other loved ones that died in service to our country, or vets. Vets that have died. They're also invited. But also, I've just started. Well, it's been a year now that I have partnered with the Woody Williams Foundation to bring a Gold Star Family Memorial Monument to Pittsburgh permanently. So that's that's what I have to keep me going. And it's not only for Carl, it's for every family in Western Pennsylvania that has lost somebody close to them. And when I started this quest, I had no idea where I wanted it. I wanted it down by the stadiums in Pittsburgh because they have a lot of other memorial monuments down there. But they said that I couldn't put it down there because there had been a resolution passed a year before. So then I went to we have a Soldiers and Sailors Museum and Hall in Pittsburgh. And I went to them, and after an hour and a half of discussing it with the CEO of this nonprofit, they were, they thought that the Gold Star Family Memorial Monument would be a great fit for their reimagined front lawn, which now is used for sunbathing by college students. So within a year and a half, 2 years, it's going to be, that whole lawn is going to be transformed into what's called a remembrance garden. And the monument that I'm working on is going to be within that remembrance garden for all Gold Star families to go to.
That's awesome.
And on top of that, one of their key pillars is education. And the more and more I get into this, the more and more I know that people have no idea what a Gold Star family is. I told somebody once that I was a Gold Star dad, and they congratulated me.
I get it
And
constantly.
I said, yeah, I didn't. I'm not confrontational, in person, and I just didn't say it. Didn't say a word. I'm like, this isn't the time to, to get into it.
That happens to me so often. There was probably a 10-year period where I would not correct people, and I didn't wanna have that I'm going on 20 years myself. I just didn't wanna have that association, didn't wanna have the conversation, didn't wanna hurt somebody's feelings. But just recently, somebody asked me, because I've got tattoos and stuff on me for my brother, so I look like I'm a vet, and I get that question quite often, be like, "Oh, did you serve? Can I give you a military discount?" Say, "No, I didn't. I'm not a vet, but I'm a Gold Star family member." And they'll always look at me, "Congrats." And then I'll be like, "You don't know what that means, do you?" And they'll be like, "No." Be like, "Oh, my brother was killed in Iraq in 2006." And all of a sudden
Yeah.
they just lose all color. And then I, feel like I've, kicked a puppy dog. And I don't want that to necessarily, I feel like it should be a common phrase to where when I say, "Oh, I'm a Gold Star family member," they're not immediately thinking of gold stars in school. I want them to know the meaning behind it. And while I took a break from it for a little while, now I'm on that path along, obviously, with this, mission that we're on for the podcast to spread awareness to everybody of what this is. It shouldn't just be a small group of people who have actually been affected by it that know what it is, because these losses affect our entire nation, right?
Yeah.
Is what freedom was built on. Were these people, and then to just ignore the meaning. I've gotten a little more aggressive with it. Not mean, educational, but, I definitely think there's a soft way of being able to explain it to people now.
Right. Well, if somebody asks me what a Gold Star dad is, I will tell them. And then, like you said, you see the blood draining from their face, and they're just like they don't know what to say. I told a couple months ago, um, I was in getting a haircut, and my barber said, "Oh, where are you going this month?" And I said, I'm going to Dallas. And he's like, "Oh, why are you going there?" And I said, "Well, I'm going for a Gold Star parents retreat." And he's like, "What's a Gold Star?" I'm like, "Okay, well, this guy wants to know." So I told him, and he really didn't know how to react. And then he saw my tats, and just like you, you know, and I think it all started clicking for him. And I still go to him for haircuts, by the way. So, but he hasn't brought it up since, and that's fine. But at least he knows what it means to be a Gold Star father.
I think a lot of families it becomes part of their identity, which is, it's good, but it's also it can be really, really tough and all consuming. It's
Yeah.
hard to find yourself and to find, I guess, your own personality again after something like this happens. Have you had any issues with that to where you're feeling like you were nothing but a gold star?
I mean, yeah, at first, when it first happened, I've heard stories of, people dying in action, and I was like, well, there's is different than, their tragedy is different than my tragedy, and their tragedy means more because they were actually out there fighting, whereas Carl was just in the army. He was there. Um, and it took a long time to kind of change that mindset into, wait a second, this person died in such and such a circumstance. Carl died in another circumstance. However, they were both in the military. They both signed on that dotted line, and they both were willing to give their life for their country. And so through the past 9 years, I've been slowly changing the way I think about that. And now I'm proud to tell Carl's story. If anybody asks, I'll tell them without a hesitation. I may get teary-eyed once in a while, but that's okay. And I feel that part of my goal in life now is to make sure that everybody I come in contact with knows what a Gold Star family is. And so, yeah, it's, I was, at first I was trying to hide it, and now it's, I'm like, you know what? I'm not hiding it. I'm proud, and I'm going to, continue on with sharing his legacy to anybody that wants to hear, or that anybody that will hear. Suicide is a very, it's not talked about enough, and it has a huge stigmatism with it. So, not only did I lose my son, but I lost him to suicide. Now it's like, oh, that's like a double whammy right there. Um, and so it took me a while to get out of that also, and actually be able to say, yeah, he died of suicide. And that's as far as I go. As far as, I've had questions like, oh, how did he die? None of your business. He was in the military. He was serving his country to protect your freedoms, and he died by suicide. And that's all you need to know. So,
Well, I think it's important to talk about, it's stigmatized, but if we don't talk about it and we don't talk about how we can prevent it, then it's not going to stop. Obviously, it's clearly a problem. I mean, with all the interviews that I've had, it's there's these patterns that you can see a lot of times, and everybody kind of after the fact puts them in there and says, "Oh yeah, this happened, this happened, this happened," and then we'll post it
right.
on TikTok or whatever, a clip and be like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly how it happened for my buddy," or whatever. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
damn, if we were talking about it ahead of time and more people could see these signs, maybe there's something we could have done about it. But no, we stay silent. We don't want to talk about the shame that comes along with this kind of stuff. And, you know, I think society's changing a bit to where we are getting more comfortable talking about the things that we once didn't, and hopefully that will help change things in the future. But you know, I appreciate that perspective from you of it being kind of tough to own up to that. It's not something I fully consider.
Well, the number's increasing as well. Um, for the longest time, it used to be about 22 a day. Now I'm hearing estimates of about 29 a day, which isn't a good thing. 22 a day wasn't a good thing, but for it to be increasing instead of decreasing is, I think that's saying something about our military and that, maybe they don't care. I mean, that's, if you have a problem and instead of facing it head on, you just let it keep on going and the numbers increase, one can only come to the conclusion that you don't really care. I don't know if you guys are under the FCC, but I don't. I'm trying to watch my mouth.
No, you're fine. I have no filter whatsoever, so you're totally fine.
Uh, um, but yeah, it's and what you had mentioned earlier about people not wanting to ask about Carl or whatever. Your your address book definitely changes. All the people that you thought were your friends or even your acquaintances, they don't call. For the first 2 weeks after the service, you get dinners and you get notes and stuff. 9 years later, I have about 5 friends that I know that I could call anytime, day or night, and they would stay on the phone, talk to me, come meet me, whatever. And it's, those are the people that I rely on because I don't have any other friends. It's nobody wants to deal with it. So it's in some societies it's just shunned. You don't, mental health is, what's we don't have any mental health and they move on with their life. That's how I grew up. If you had an issue, it was swept under the carpet and you just moved on. And that is so wrong and so backwards.
One thing that we hear a lot of too is that, a lot of these guys that end up committing suicide just felt like they couldn't go get the proper help because that would be admitting some sort of weakness. And in the military, that's just not something that a lot of them want to do. Have you heard of ETMS therapy before?
Is that with the eye movement?
Nope. So it's like a magnet that goes on your head.
No.
I got invited to go tour an ETMS facility. A good friend of mine does the treatments, and it's for PTSD and anybody that's dealing with severe depression.
Right.
And a lot of states are starting to actually allow this to be funded because of how effective it is. It basically just allows a different pathway in their brain that to open up, and it's been just doing some amazing to help stop depression in these guys that, are struggling. One of the big benefits of it is they don't have to talk about the things that they've been through in
Okay.
order to get, the treatment from it. There's like 20 sessions that goes through. It sounds science fiction-y to me. And if I didn't know the woman that was actually doing the treatments, we would call it bullshit completely. Because she's like, "Oh yeah, you put a magnet here, you'll feel tapping on the front of your head." But they do these like scans of the brain to like, read the function, EKG, I think it is. And they can actually see a difference. They'll do it beforehand, they'll do it after the treatments, and they can see that it improves the brain functionality. And most of these guys never have to go back for treatment again. So I like to I like to bring that up in these too, because a lot of people listening to this are dealing with, somebody that, maybe they're not quite sure of what's the next step. How do we do that? And there's definitely help out there now.
Yeah.
Technology is increasing, and they don't have to admit weakness necessarily in order to go and get this help, which is very important to me to make sure that
Yeah.
go get that treatment. Because for a lot of these guys, if they have to talk about it, I'll pass. I'm going to find something else to go do. I'm busy that day. I'm too
Yep.
busy to go deal with this. But she does. It's 20 sessions, 21-hour sessions, and they've got incredible success rate with it. So that's just something to bring up. If you ever come across anybody that's just really struggling, I would recommend you look that up and recommend it to them.
Along with the stigmatism of suicide is also the culture that you grow up in, including religion. Because I know that when I was in ninth grade, I went to church schools all through my elementary, middle, and high school. And we were just having a discussion with a minister in class, and I asked the question, well, what happens if somebody dies by suicide? And the minister was like, well, they go directly to hell. And, I'd been like, okay, well, I mean, whatever. And, that was in ninth grade. And, I'd buried it. And as soon as I heard, that Carl had died by suicide, almost one of the first things I did was I have a couple nephews that are ministers. And I called them up and I said, listen, you gotta find me something to say that, Carl's not in hell. And they really, I mean, they found something, and it's okay. I know where he's at, and he's not downstairs. He's, upstairs. But, it's things like religion and culture that um kind of also uh, add to the shame of somebody dying by suicide. So we also need to change the cultures, and I don't know if we can do that. I mean, changing a culture is a very difficult thing. Um, the culture in the military was one that, if they knew that you were a weak link, they tried to get you out. And, that's slowly changing over time. And it's the same thing with the other kind of cultures in this world. The religious culture, the ethnic cultures, whatever. And it's just a whole bunch of extra crap that you have to sift through and see your way clear of. Yeah, so there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot of stigmatism to shed off of, mental health and suicide.
Is there anything else you care to tell us about Carl before we end?
I mean, I miss him every day. He's I'm sure that by now he would have had children. He would have been a great father. I know that when he was a teenager, he would get home from work at night, and if we were having issues with putting my youngest daughter to sleep, who was a baby at the time, he would he would carry her around the house and just sing to her, talk to her, just to give us a break. So again, he was a very kind, loving individual, and he loved having a great time. Loved it. And he was very loyal as well. loyal to family.
Well, Rad, thank you for sharing your story with me today. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you for continuing to spread the word about the Gold Star families, and I'll do my part over here to keep doing it too. Rad, thank you for trusting us with Karl's story and for the purpose you found in carrying it forward for other families. To every parent, sibling, spouse, and friend listening, your story matters here. Sharing these conversations helps more people understand what a Gold Star family truly is and the silence we must break. And now, as we always do, let's raise a glass to Karl. To the prankster who turned a kitchen sink into a comedy act. To the musician who wrote and recorded his own songs. To the son who walked his baby sister to sleep so his parents could rest. To the young husband who married his longtime love and the soldier who signed the dotted line to serve his country. Karl, you brought laughter, loyalty, and heart into every room. You deserved time, help, and a fair chance. We honor you by saying your name, telling the truth, and standing with the families who carry it every day. Say their name. Private Karl Sellner. A special thank you to our Gold Star Story supporters, Terry Mullins, Danielle Mettle, Jackie Mullins, June Letendre, Edie Howard, Bob and Pat Scott, Mary Jo Stoy, Helen Krupp, Georgia Franco, Jess Miller, Aaron Peck, and Nate Letendre. You can support our work at goldstarstories.usa.com. There you can find a link to a tax-deductible donation through our fiscal sponsor, Veterans Collaborative. Every bit helps us keep the mic on for families like Rad's. Until next time, look after your people.